Today's episode of The Overwhelmed Brain is brought to you by those who left a review in iTunes. Thank you so much. Are you annoyed by affirmations? How about that guy that's really annoying? You know, that guy who wrote that book. You know who I'm talking about, right?
My new book called Thinking Positively for Intensely Depressed People.
Thinking Positively for Intensely Depressed People?
Yes, isn't it great? It'll help people get out of depression.
Okay, I guess so. I think it takes a little bit more than positive thinking to get out of depression.
I was depressed once. I know how it is. One time, I was in the back of my limo, and this homeless guy walked up and knocked on the window. I was so scared I wouldn't let my driver go down that road for 3 weeks. Oh, I was so depressed. And that's what prompted me to write this book, Thinking Positively for Intensely Depressed People.
How do you know you were depressed? Do you know what depression is?
Yes, sometimes I get depressed when there's no toilet paper. I know how it is.
If affirmations feel like lies and positive thinking feels like denial, then get ready to start creating the life you've always wanted.
You're listening, right, Diane?
Now. Hello, this is Paul Coliani, host of The Overwhelmed Brain, the personal growth show for the critical thinker. On every episode, we'll talk about practical, down-to-earth steps to help you improve your mood and keep you sane in this powerful journey we call life. I want to help you bridge the gap between your emotions and reason, causing you to discover why you do the things you do and what you can do to reach higher levels of happiness and lower levels of stress and overwhelm. Now, if you're here to learn more common sense tips for improving your life, you're in the wrong place. This is the direct path to uncommon sense, and that's why it's going to help you learn, heal, grow, and evolve. All right, before we talk about anything, I want to mention a couple emails that I received. Well, actually, one email and one client that I had, and I think there might be, no, I think that's it, where two people that I know of just recently got into physical altercations with family members. And I don't know why these come in pairs, but every now and then I'll get, someone will write to me and they'll say, this just happened to me. And then I'll have a client or someone else will write and they'll say the same thing. This just happened to me. And it's something very unique. So sometimes I think there's like a trend that happens in the world where certain events are happening at the same time. And I don't know if it's just coincidence or if I'm just hearing about them and it's only me that's hearing about them, or if it's happening worldwide. It could be just a coincidence, or it could be influenced some way. You know, certainly the media influences us to doing things that maybe we wouldn't do had we not listened to a show or watched a TV show or watched a movie. Certainly we get influenced. And a good example of that is back in the 70s when, not for me in the 70s, but when I was taking ballroom dancing in the 90s, I took some lessons in Florida. And the teacher, who had been teaching for 20 plus years, was telling us back in the 70s when the movie Saturday Night Fever came out, everyone was into disco. Everyone learned about disco and they saw John Travolta dancing on the screen and they wanted to learn disco too. They wanted to be that guy on that lit up dance floor. And so our ballroom teacher was telling my girlfriend and I how right after that movie came out, he had a line that went outside his studio, around the corner and down the street just to learn how to hustle. And so the movie heavily impacted how people behave and respond and treat each other and what they do in their life and the experiences they want to have. So after that movie, everyone wanted to learn, or a lot of people wanted to learn how to hustle. So his ballroom dancing business started booming at that time. And I just thought that was amazing because one movie can come out and change an entire culture of people or an entire continent of people or world of people. One thing can change the minds of so many people and make them do things that they wouldn't have otherwise considered, or at least in such a mass movement of this kind. So when I get letters that are very similar, like for last month, I got several emails that talked about how this person's spouse was cheating on them. And I was like, oh my God, I hope March isn't cheating month or something, or infidelity month. This is wild. I've never received so many emails about the same subject over and over again. Yet it happened. So it's possible that it's the time of year, or something happened in the media that made people think about it, or maybe more people are getting caught doing it for one reason or another. This is neither here nor there. I just wanted to make that observation that it does seem like when something is happening to one person, it's happening to someone else as well. And it does seem to come in trends, in peaks and valleys, where you'll have a peak of an event or behavior, and then you'll have a valley that the behavior is not as prevalent in the world. So this could just be my little corner of the world that of the emails that I experience, and it could be all coincidence, or it could be relevant. These events could be happening because of the news of the world, or the movies of the world, or because we are in the information age and things go viral. When we watch a viral video that just gets played over and over and over again and shared through everyone's Facebook groups and through YouTube and through all these other channels, maybe this affects us. Maybe it influences our minds. And it's good to be aware of what's influencing our minds. And, this is one of the reasons I don't watch the news. My girlfriend and I actually watched a movie last night, and as I was turning the movie off, the news came on. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just came on. And suddenly we were watching local news about people who got mugged, people who got shot, people who were going through a hard time of some sort. And I started getting depressed. I was like, oh, this is awful. But what am I to do about it? And then the weather came on. I was like, okay, the weather, that's something that I can watch and get something from. And then he started talking about how it's going to look in the next 2 days. And I was thinking, okay, this will be handy. And then I thought to myself, wait, I've done fine without looking at the weather for about a year now. I look outside, I can see how it's going to be, and I make my plans. I suppose if I was planning something for the next day, that would be certainly helpful. But since I'm not going to be having a picnic outside, I really don't care about the weather. So I had all these thoughts going through my head, and these are thoughts that I really didn't think about before. Because when you don't watch the news, or you don't do certain things, and then you start doing certain things, or like me, turned on the news for a few minutes for the first time in a long time, I started having different thoughts. Now, I just find that fascinating, that I wouldn't have had some of the thoughts I had it not been for that type of influence. I mean, just think about that next time you're surfing the web. You're running across stores. You're looking at people's Facebook posts, and they're posting things like what they ate and what the people they met and the people they're with, all the selfies and the experiences they're having. And it makes you go through your own experiences in life, or what you might want to do in the future or now. Like, what do I want to do right now? And you start looking through all these Facebook posts. What do I want to do right now? Oh, look what they're doing. Oh, that looks like fun. Zip lining. That looks like fun. I'm not saying there are negative consequences to doing this. I'm just saying that we are heavily influenced by everything that we take in. So I think we have to be very careful what we take in. Now, that doesn't mean you have to avoid everything negative. I used to believe that you should just avoid everything negative. In fact, maybe 10 years ago, I was on that kick. Don't watch or listen to or read anything negative. So I wouldn't, and I was in a happy state of denial. Nothing's going on. Nothing bad is going on in the world. And then I met abuse survivors, and I realized how much denial I've been in. I realized how much pain and suffering there is in the world. Now, not that I want to introduce that into my life, but it is good to be aware that this stuff happens and we shouldn't just turn a blind eye to it. It is good to be aware that we can be a part of a positive, healthy, happy life and still have this pain and suffering. It doesn't have to bring us down. It's just good to be aware that it happens so that we can continue to have our compassion for others. Because this is what happened to me, is that I filled my head with all this positive thinking and I started losing some compassion. I'm not saying that's the result every time for everyone, but I didn't have too much compassion because all I saw were the positive things in life. And then when something came across my line of sight that I didn't like, I just ignored it or denied it was there. And then every now and then I'd watch a movie that would touch my heartstrings, and I thought, wow, that poor guy, that poor victim of that crime or whatever happened to them. And then my compassion would kick in. But it was for movie characters. Now, it did help because I thought, wow, there are people out there just like that. But it's good to be exposed to the breadth of humankind, of everything that goes on in life. Yes, life can go well. While you're making your way, you may not have the thoughts of full compassion that may be helpful to others. I mean, just a kind ear, a kind listening ear for someone else is a show of compassion. Someone's suffering, even if they're in victim mode. You know those people. They complain and whine about everything. Just opening your ears and going, go ahead, tell me everything. What else? As they talk, you just say, what else? What else is bothering you? And just sit there listening until they're exhausted. And then they've gotten it all out and they realize, oh my God, there's nothing else to talk about. You know how relieving that is for some people? Yeah, we don't want to be around people that whine and complain and moan. Yet, if we just open our ears, know that this is going to take a while and know that we probably won't have much to say about it, but we'll just sit there listening with a kind, compassionate ear. That's really where compassion starts. Just being observant, just being aware that other people's suffering exists. And when you're aware, you make better decisions in life. Not only for everyone else, but for yourself. You make better decisions in life because you do so out of a place of compassion, out of a place of observation and awareness. You don't blindly follow a path in ignorant bliss, hoping that everything will turn out right, or, quote, knowing everything will turn out all right. Because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you follow a path and it fails miserably. And if you've been blind to what can happen, then you won't be prepared. And not having that preparedness can sometimes be scary. I mean, if you have any fears at all about certain things in your life, just find people. I mean, we all surf the net at one point or another. Just find people online that have been through what you fear. If you're afraid to be around people, look online about people who got over their fear of being around people. How'd they do it? I want to know more. Dive into your fear in a way that's healing. Dive into your fear in a way where you find out how others got out of it. A lot of times we'll want to stay in that blissful ignorance of, if I just avoid that situation, then I don't have to deal with it. I've seen many people go through this where instead of looking up what other people have gone through to get past their fears or what they're denying, they are not prepared. So when it hits them, and it always does, because what we resist will show up. What we resist persists, and it will show up, and it will be very impactful because we don't want it to happen. And the more we don't want it to happen, the more we hope it doesn't. So we build all this resistance against it ever happening. So when it does, we're not prepared. We're shocked. It's a shock to our system, and we don't know what to do next. So it's good to be aware of what people have done in the past to get beyond. And this is any fear you have or anything that you're in denial about. And you know what you're in denial about. You do. You know what you're in denial about because you don't want to think about it. So find people that have been through that and just look up their story. Everyone has a story. Look it up. Learn more and figure out what you can do for yourself. I started off this segment talking about a couple letters that I received about physical altercations. And one of those physical altercations was a woman in her 40s who got slapped in the face by her mom. That's a powerful lesson there for her and her mom. I don't know if her mom's ever slapped her before, but this isn't a young girl. This is someone that she slapped is in her 40s. She's old enough to make her own decisions and be her own adult in life. Yet her mom slapped her. So that kind of thing comes from a dysfunctional place. Her mom's in a dysfunctional space or has some dysfunctional thinking going on there. In order to come up with a slap out of nowhere, there's a snapping point that she reached, that she just couldn't take anymore and couldn't communicate in a resourceful way. So she did the last thing that she knew how to do, which was become physically violent. And that will happen when you have no other way to communicate what you want to communicate and you just can't get through to the person you're trying to communicate with. That can happen. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that you have to be aware that it can happen. You have to be observant of everything that us people, us humans, can do in the world. Because we can do a lot of good, and we can do things that aren't so good. We can do things that are unexpected. One of my good friends, Dean, told me, you know what? When you get divorced, your ex is going to do things that are extremely uncharacteristic of them. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, because I thought I knew my wife so well. Now, fortunately, when I got a divorce, it was all amicable. We treated each other with kindness and we ended it, even though I didn't want it to end. And it was hard and it was painful. It was still, we were good enough people to treat each other kindly. But not all divorces go like that. Some divorces go badly because uncharacteristic behavior, in other words, behavior that you don't expect that person to do, comes out. And I've known, and you probably know, people that got divorced where suddenly their ex is doing something that they didn't expect and throws a wrench into the mix, and now they're mortal enemies. And that's not a good place to be. Just open your ears, open your eyes, be aware that anything can happen at any time. It's not to make you paranoid. It's to allow you to be prepared and not so attached to denial and everything is beautiful and wonderful and perfect. It's not to be paranoid. It's to be aware that you have to work at this life. You have to keep moving in a direction and keep healing and growing so that you can make the best of everything. And when you meet other people that want to do that same thing and want to make the best of life with you, that's even more powerful. And the idea is to continue working on that with each other or with yourself, in yourself. It's just to continue working towards something good for you. Because a lot of this isn't easy unless you're handed things left and right and don't go through a lot of trials and tribulations that many of us go through. Unless you don't have the challenges, you're not sure what to expect. So it's good just to have an idea of what to expect. Not that you are going to have it, but that you can appreciate what you have and also appreciate the fact that it does take work to continue getting better in yourself and in your life day after day. Having this awareness helps you break free of your resistance to what you don't want in your life. It helps you break free of your fears because you're aware that it could happen. I'm fully aware that even though my relationship with my girlfriend right now is something that I want to keep for the rest of my life, I'm fully aware that it could end at any moment. I've seen too much in my life where I've been in situations where everything was perfect and wonderful, and then suddenly the hammer drops and we're breaking up or we're divorcing, or even in job situations, I'm losing my work. What? I'm losing my job? What? I've seen too many things that no matter how wonderful everything is, things can change. So it's important to be observant and to be aware and to move through life knowing that you always have work to do. You always have work to do. You always have space to grow, and you always have something to move towards. And when you can find other people to do that with, whether in an intimate relationship or a team situation or a job or a movement or anything bigger than yourself, when you find other people to do that with and you're moving towards the same goals, it just gets better and better from there. But that doesn't discount the idea of doing it alone either, because sometimes climbing the biggest mountain is a job that you do alone, and sometimes you have to be the trendsetter. All right, that's all I have to say about that. I just wanted to expand on some philosophies in my life and hope that they resonate with you so that you aren't so unprepared when the challenges come, and they will come. Let's go on to our next segment called Ask Paul. All right, once a week we talk with Asha. She is an independent associate for Legal Shield. If you don't know what Legal Shield is, just imagine being able to pick up the phone anytime and ask for legal advice, or have them write a letter on your behalf to someone that's bugging you or asking you for money, or someone that's doing something that they're not supposed to do, yet you can't figure out how to stop them. Or how about going through a divorce? What do you say? Who do you call? How much money are you owed from your ex, if any, or if a lot? Who knows? There's so much you can use this service for. And Asha is a representative, and she can answer your questions regarding this legal insurance. It's $20 a month for a single person. It's like $24 a month for a family, I think, or an add-on member or something like that. And she talks about it every week because she believes in it and she uses it herself. I recently used it for my book contract. I had to have an attorney look at my book contract, and I didn't have to pay anything extra. I sent them the contract. I'm already paying $20 a month. They looked it over, and I talked to them on the phone, and he told me some red flags I had to watch out for, but for the most part, he just gave me his analysis, and it was great. I would have paid $300 or more for an attorney to look this over, but he did it as part of my plan. I love sharing this service with you and having Asha come on the show once a week to tell you all about it. And one of the things that she says that she wants to talk about this week are wills. And I'm like, wills? Don't you have to be 90 to worry about your having a will? And then I realized I'm at that age where maybe I should consider getting a will. I'm 45 right now. I mean, that's not old. I plan on living, well, I never told anyone this, but I plan on living to 120. So I may not need a will. I'm hoping I don't need a will for a long time. But, you know, just like I said in my last segment, anything could happen at any time. And are you prepared if something does happen? Are your kids prepared? Will they have to pay for the funeral, or how is that going to work? So I want Asha to kind of expand upon this and talk about wills, which is part of the service, part of the subscription plan. So here she is. Asha, take it away.
You know, it's really important to have a will. If you have children, you have a partner, you have a significant other, you have a situation where even somebody else might somehow be responsible for your debt, or your property. You want to make sure it gets to the right place, even if it's just an estate. That's a stupid comment because anybody who has a estate is going to have an attorney. But whatever the situation, you've got to have a will. I did not have a will for most of my life. Then I had my son. I got divorced. I needed one. You've got to have a will, because without a will, anything that you do own gets completely tied up in probate court. It could be 2 years. The people that need to have access to your accounts so they can pay for your funeral costs can't even touch your accounts. So now you're gone, and the burden lies on the people around you to pick up the pieces, and that includes legal and financial. And without a will, they have no way to manage it. So now they're trying to come up with money out of their own pocket to cover your expenses, and you're not here. Get Legal Shield. It's free to have a will done. It costs you $20 a month. That's $240 for an entire year. Make sure people know what you want to have done and that it's legally binding. Get it sewn up. It's easy. It's too cheap not to be protected, have peace of mind, and have good protocol and everything set up to help those around you.
I like how the service acts as a legal resource for you anytime you need it. It's like when you have a question, you can just pick up the phone and call.
Absolutely.
So, Asha, thank you for that. How can they reach you if they want to find out more about this service?
You can call me at 678-355-8777 or go to getoutofthemess.com, which will take you to my page. You can leave a message, look over the plans, get some information. Or, of course, there's always the Get Out of the Legal Mess button on theoverwhelmedbrain.com.
All right, that music gets you in the mood, doesn't it? Of course, now when I read an Ask Paul message, it doesn't seem so bright and cheery, but well, let's stay in a good mood, even though sometimes the information that I have on this show is not so fun and happy, but I'm here to try to get you to that fun and happy place, to get you to that healing place where you can grow and learn through the challenges that you have. And this segment is all about that. It's about asking me a question regarding a challenge in your life. So this is where I read an email and I help the person who wrote the email through a difficulty in their life. So here is today's email. Dear Paul, thank you for such a great podcast. You're welcome. I started listening just this morning and I have not been able to stop thinking of the advice you gave about invalidation. I've been on your website all afternoon reading about all these stories and they've made a great impact on me already. I'm not sure if I'm in the same boat and feel invalidated, but of course I couldn't help but to think about my partner and I. My partner of 10 years and I are in our 20s. We have several children, so our household is quite busy. Just to add a little background, my partner grew up without a mother because she was a drug addict who left the home, so he and his siblings were raised by his father alone. Needless to say, my partner went through some abandonment and negligence. I've noticed that he is very selfish, and I can attribute and understand that it has to do with his upbringing, so he basically had to watch out for himself since his father wasn't around. He makes decisions for himself and he only thinks about himself. He never takes my opinions into consideration. When I express my opinion, it ends up in arguments and he says I don't understand him and I don't wish for him to be happy. I am beyond exhausted with trying over and over to communicate with him. We simply can't get to a point of understanding when there's a problem and or emotions are involved. I feel disrespected by him calling me controlling and evil and saying that I don't care about his feelings. He recently took a pay cut from work because he was unhappy with what he was doing. His excuse, of course, was him and his feelings. When I gave him my opinion about the great benefits our children had from his job, he snapped and called me selfish and controlling. A couple years ago, I also took a pay cut. However, I did it to benefit the schedules to correspond with our kids' school hours. I feel alone in this relationship. I feel like over the past 10 years, I've been bullied into thinking that I am a controlling, selfish partner when all I'm doing is thinking of all of us as a family. Everything I do revolves around my partner and our kids, whereas everything he does revolves around his own feelings. When he thinks of our future, he thinks of himself and how happy he will be in the industry he's in. When I think of our future, I think of our kids and their school and their future. Sometimes I wish someone from the outside was looking in on our relationship and would tell me that it is I who has a problem. That way I could work on myself and avoid giving my partner an opinion, which he only disrespects and ignores anyway. Thanks again, Paul. All right, I'm going to call you Katie. How about that? Thank you so much, Katie, for this message. There's no real question in the message, but I think you shared it because maybe you want my insights or maybe you're just getting something off your chest. But I do have some opinion on what's going on here. And one of the first things that comes to mind is what a relationship is, what an intimate relationship is. What is the definition of a relationship to you? When I think about an intimate relationship, I think about equality. I think about sharing. I think about enjoying being with each other and sharing experiences and going to the movies and talking about the future, your future together, and talking about things that you're going to do together and remembering things that you've done together. You know, I've been with my girlfriend and we just figured this out a few days ago. We went, oh my God, it's been 1.5 years since we met. And it's funny because, you know, when you're with someone special, time just flies and you don't realize how much time's gone by. And of course, when you're with someone you don't like, sometimes the same thing happens. Like 10 years will go by and you're like, what? We've been together 10 years? That's nuts. And then you're like, oh, yeah, what am I doing in this relationship? But when my girlfriend said that, wow, we've been together 1.5 years, it was after talking about when we first met and how we felt about each other and how we were laughing because when we met, we didn't want to date. We wanted to be friends, or at least I wanted to be friends. I'm not sure what was on her mind, but when she realized that I was not available, I didn't want to be available, that I chose not to date, she liked it. I was safe. She could talk to me and feel safe sharing things with me and not have to worry that I was going to pull some move on her. Now, we were doing this online, so there's really no move I could pull on her, but, you know, I kept it very platonic and I had no intention of dating who I'm with now. So it started off really neat and we like talking about that every now and then and just remembering how it blossomed from there. And I think when you share experiences from your past about how things developed for you and you think of all the sweet stories and nice memories that you shared together, I think when you still talk about things like that, then your relationship's probably going pretty good. It's probably going well. And it gives you an idea of how it will continue to go because it's an overall feeling of affection towards each other. And that's what we have, an overall feeling of affection towards each other. So that's one of the things that keeps us going. I mean, there's many things that keep us going, but that's one of the things that we can talk about. If I bring up our past and how we met and we just stop and really enjoy those moments as we talk about it. And it feels good to be with someone where you can share memories like that. But what happens when you stop doing that? What happens when you're years into it, like you and your partner are, and that kind of talk doesn't exist anymore? It can exist. I was with someone for 13 years, and by year 10, we were still talking about when we met and how we felt about each other. It felt good. It eventually disintegrated, but that's another story. But still, it can happen. You can be with someone for a really long time and still enjoy the nostalgia about your intimacy, about when you met. And it really tells you something, because what are you focused on? Are you focused on how wonderful it is to be with the person, or how to get through the next day with the person? And that's probably where you're at, Katie. How do I get through this next day and the next day and the next day? Now, I'm not saying that the solution is to remember the past, remember when you met, because that's not what's really happening now. I've been to therapy where the therapist will ask, okay, do you remember when you two first met? What was it like? Access those feelings. And what they're doing is trying to get you into a state of remembering what it was like when you were first with each other. And that can work. That can make you feel good and have renewed feelings for each other. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. I think it can be powerful and it can work. But what you experience today is what you're experiencing today. There's something going on in your relationship that you don't like, that maybe not, like you said, you're not sure if you feel invalidated or you're not sure if you can relate to that, but you feel something. You feel some sort of being left out, for example, of his thoughts, of his dreams of the future, of what he's going to accomplish in his life. And his thoughts or dreams don't seem to include you or your family from what you're saying. So what do you do with that? What do you say? How do you feel? Well, if you are feeling left out, then, and if I put myself in your shoes, I would wonder, what's the point of being here? What's the point of being in this relationship if you don't care if I'm here or not? And maybe that's what you're thinking. I've had these thoughts. I've had these very thoughts in my current relationship. Believe it or not, everything's wonderful, but I've had these thoughts only because my girlfriend had some fear about really connecting with me. Because in her past, connecting and loving someone meant that she was about to get abused or treated badly or whatever fears were going through her mind. Connecting with someone and loving them and opening her heart to someone meant that she was going to get her heart crushed. So all of these associations of things that have happened in her life, that when she had tried to open up to me more and more, it caused fear in her. Now, this could be happening in your relationship. He may not open up out of fear. I don't want to be intimate with you out of fear, because when I'm intimate, you'll leave me or you'll crush my heart. Like you said, his mom left, so he probably, or maybe, blames himself for that. Why did my mom leave after I was born? It must be me. I'm not saying that you are responsible for how he feels, and I'm not saying that it's something that you have to be more forgiving or compassionate towards him for. I mean, I believe in compassion. We just talked about it in the last segment, but it doesn't mean you have to be punished for it because he's going through it himself. So again, what do you do? What do you think? How do you deal with this situation? Well, I think the first thing you need to do is just be frank. Just be open and say, I feel like when you think about your future, you don't include me or the kids. I don't feel that at all. I feel like you're leaving me out. So, first of all, you're expressing this from your own thoughts, from your own feelings. You're not pointing the finger. You're not blaming. You're just addressing it. This is what I feel. I feel hurt because when you talk about the future, you don't include me. You don't include the kids. You're not calling him selfish. You're just expressing what you feel and what you hear and what you see he's doing. So that's the first thing I would do, is just address it. And you may have done this, I don't know, but address it, because he has to know what's on your mind. He can't read your mind, just like you really can't read his mind, although it seems like what you're saying might be true, but I don't know your situation. So just be frank. Just be clear. When you talk about the future and you don't say that I'm in your future or your kids, I feel like you're leaving me out on purpose. I feel hurt. I feel abandoned, like you don't love me. I mean, what is really going on inside of you? Do you feel like he doesn't love you? And if that's the case, just say, I don't feel loved. Do you feel like he's not respecting you? Say that. But always keep the focus on you. I feel like you don't love me. I feel like you don't respect me. I feel like you're leaving me out, and that hurts. And then continuing to be frank, do you really love me? Do you want a future with me? I mean, don't avoid the hard questions because you want truth. Don't avoid the hard questions because otherwise every day will be slightly miserable or more miserable than the last day. Do you want a future with me? Is this something you really want to do? Is this a life you really want? A life with me? Do you want to be with me in a year, in 10 years? Tell me the truth. I mean, this is time for you to take your ego out of the picture and take your need or dependency for love and affection in a relationship. Just take those out. I know it's hard. I know it's not easy, but just take those out. You can do it because you want the truth. And sometimes you have to take your emotions out of your search for the truth. What do you really want for your future? How do you picture it? And just ask him, tell me the truth, even if it hurts. Tell me the truth, even if you know I'll get mad. Tell me. And listen to what he says with open ears and try to drop your judgment, because he might say things like, well, you're always so controlling and I don't want to be controlled and you never support me. He's going to say things that might hurt and might trigger you. And just listen. Just keep your mind open and listen. And let him say whatever he wants to say in a safe place. Give him that safe place to express himself. Even if you think he's wrong, even if you think he's selfish, just let him do it. Let him talk. Just like my last segment. Just let him talk until he's done talking. And then don't comment. Don't make comments on what he's saying. Don't be triggered. I know that's impossible sometimes, but the idea is to give him that safe place to express himself. Not that it's your job, not that you're his therapist, but if you're going to be in this relationship, it might be a good time to find out where it's going. So give him the space to express himself just so you can find out the truth. Because this is what happens. We're in a relationship and we hope something is not true. I hope my wife doesn't want to get a divorce. I hope she's not mad at me where she leaves me. So just because I don't want that to be true, I'm going to deny that it might be true. And I won't ask her, are you mad at me? Are you upset with me? I won't ask her those tough questions like, what's going on with you? Do you really want to stay with me? I feel like you don't want me around. When I was married, I probably didn't want to ask those questions. I learned to ask those questions later on in the marriage, but the hard truths came up. The hard truths came up and I had to deal with them. That's a big step that I want you to take, is I want you to deal with hard truths if you're getting them. He may not want to tell you the hard truths. And this is where your intuition kicks in and you try to figure out what he means by what he says. If he says, well, nothing's wrong, everything's fine. When I'm thinking about stuff, I'm just thinking, how can I be happy? And of course it includes you. Now, do you just accept that? Or do you reach inside yourself and feel what that feels like? Oh, of course it includes you. Does that feel genuine? And if not, address it. Always address what's happening in the moment. When you say that, it doesn't feel genuine. It sounds like you're saying that just to please me or placate me. And then he might say, of course I'm not saying that to please me or placate you. You're trying to control this situation again. Well, if he goes off on that, with you trying to share what's on your mind and your emotions, and he's not giving you a safe place to express yourself, then I find that highly defensive people don't want to admit something, don't want to tell you a truth. So they get more defensive and they want to stay their ground or keep their truth to themselves for one reason or another, because they're afraid that the situation will change. Because, like you said, if he has an abandonment issue, he's afraid to lose you, but at the same time, he feels like you're controlling, so he doesn't say what's really on his mind. But it's a whole mystery of the survival tactics that we come up with. It's like, I don't want you to leave, but I also don't feel the same as I used to feel. But don't leave. We put ourselves in these situations that we think we need the person that's in our life because of the way we used to feel with them. So even though we don't feel that way anymore, and I'm not saying you do or don't, or he does or he doesn't, but in general, sometimes we're with people that we don't feel the same about that we used to feel when the relationship was younger. And we look at today and we go, whoa, I don't feel the same as I used to feel. And do I even still love this person? Is this a person I want to spend my life with? And we're afraid to face the truths in ourselves. We're afraid to face what might be a hard truth to deal with. So we don't even ask the right questions of our partner because we want to tiptoe around it. So just in case they give us that hard truth, we don't think we'll be able to handle it. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Overwhelmed Brain, and we're almost done with this episode. And before we end, I just wanted to let you know that I do coach one-on-one. So when you hear me read these letters on the air, it's sort of a coaching session, not only for the person who wrote it, but for everyone, for you listening. And it's a little taste of what I do, but when we're together, either on the phone or through video chat, I dive much deeper because I know specifically what you're going through, and I can help you get to a better place inside of you, getting you from your challenges to a more empowered place where you can make decisions that are right for you. Because that's the hardest part sometimes, is taking the step, taking action, making a decision that will change sometimes everything. You know that you might have something going on in your life that maybe you don't want to realize or face, or you do have a decision to make and you're not sure what is the right decision. Which decision do I make? If I do this, then I lose this. If I do it this way, then I lose that. It's sort of like I get a lot of coaching requests regarding relationships. If I stay, I'm miserable. If I leave, I'll be miserable. What do I do? And like I said, we dive into that stuff, and I help you get to a place that is empowering for you. I help you get to a clear decision to make. And sometimes it doesn't come down to a decision. Sometimes it's not a matter of, I need to do A or B. Sometimes it's a matter of figuring out what's motivating you to do what you're doing now. Why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep attracting the same partners in my life? Why do I keep failing at everything I do? Or why do I sabotage myself? On and on and on. And these things these patterns that keep repeating in your life, these can be thwarted. These can be overruled. I mean, we have a set of rules in our brain. I don't really like to call them rules. I call them values and beliefs, but they're kind of like they're programmatic rules. There's a word for you. We're programmed to do certain things because of our conditioning, because of our beliefs that we developed in childhood, because of many, many factors, the influences in our life growing up and even now. And of course, our fears. What do we fear? So all these things drive our behavior, and it feels like it's programmed. But the good news is we can reprogram that. We can look at the code and change the code, and suddenly the next day we're making different decisions, more empowering decisions for ourselves. So that's what I'm here to do for you. If you want to coach with me, go to theoverwhelmedbrain.com and click on Coach with Paul, and we'll do a one-on-one. We'll dive right into what's going on in your life, and I'll be able to help you out by giving you my insights, suggestions, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be in a place where you can make decisions that are right, that feel good, that maybe are hard to make, but at least you're going forward. You're getting some forward momentum. And that's what I want for you. I make it easy. I make it fun. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's very deep. but my goal is to get you to a better place inside. Go to theoverwhelmedbrain.com and click on Coach with Paul. All right, we're just about done with our email from Katie. And Katie, I just want to tell you this. I know that's not your real name. It's probably weird when I say that. But I just want to let you know that a relationship, and you probably know this, and this is probably why you're having a hard time. A relationship is a balancing act. It's a give and take. It's sometimes the other person gets more and sometimes you get more. But when it's not that balancing act and it seems one-sided, then it's not a relationship. It's not anything that I would want in my life, at least. I would want someone who wants me to be happy, who supports my happiness, who supports my ambition, my goals, my desires, my hobbies, everything like that. And even discusses things with me that when we make decisions as a family, we can go forward knowing that we've had that discussion, even if we disagree. And the way I see your situation is that it seems kind of one-sided. If he's very selfish and he's making decisions for him and he doesn't have the rest of the family in mind, then I think I would ask the question, do you even care about my happiness? Do you even care about the kids? I mean, that's a harsh question, and it might get you might get some lashback from that. So maybe don't ask quite that question. But it is something that you can approach. Like, do you care about my happiness? Or do you just care about yours? I mean, that's a very direct question, isn't it? But it's something that you want to know. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. That's really what I was talking about the whole last segment is, what do you want to know? Find out. What does he say? And then when he says, what are you talking about? Of course I want you to be happy. Then the next question is, well, then why do you XYZ? Why do you make decisions without me? Well, because, I mean, you have to listen for the answer. Because, blah, whatever he says. And you'll get a lot of insight from his answers, and that will be important for you to know so that you can start doing things with more knowledge. Because this is what I run into, and this is what I want to mention to you as well. With my coaching clients, many of them will get to a point of, I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know where he's at in his head. And when my client asks their partner, what's wrong? They might say, well, nothing's wrong. What's wrong with you? They'll redirect it. And then they won't come to a resolution because there's no facts. Like, I don't know what to work with because I don't have the facts. So that's the reason for those harder, more poignant questions is finding out the facts. I need to know so that I have something to work with. And that's one thing that's very important. You need to know the facts. You can't make decisions based on ambiguous information. You can't. You need to know truth. And it's kind of like when I was a manager. I had 24 people under me. And if someone came up to me and said, I might be taking the day off tomorrow, I don't know. The first thing I would say is, I need to know if you are or are not right now. And, I wasn't mean about it, but I just was very straightforward and said, I need to know so that I know what to expect and who needs to come in to cover. And are you going to call someone to cover or what? I didn't like ambiguity. So don't come to me with ambiguous information. Come to me with the problem and the solution. I mean, that's what any manager wants, right? I want the problem. Okay, good. I know we're going to have problems here. And I want a possible recommended solution. So when an employer would come up to me and they would say, I might need to take tomorrow off, I want to hear instead, look, I'm taking tomorrow off and I've already called Bill and Susan agreed that she would come in for me. Great. I don't have anything to worry about. Perfect. The same thing in relationships. Hey, do you want this relationship to last? I don't know. Are you happy? I'm not sure. Do you love me? I'm not sure. I mean, this is not information. This is just someone in indecision. I have another client who was with a guy that was very indecisive. Everything he said was vague, and it always gave him a way out. It always gave him a chance to procrastinate, to delay, and it always caused her to just pull her hair out, going, "What's on your mind? What are you talking about? What's the truth? How do you feel? What are you doing?" And she could never get a straight answer. And I asked the question that I ask almost all of my clients that have relationship issues: knowing that your partner will never change, would you be okay with it? Some clients will go, "No, that would be terrible." And other clients will go, "Well, how do I know if he'll never change?" And other clients will go, "Well, yeah, I think I would be." So there's like 3 levels of the way you can answer that question. "No, I wouldn't be okay with that." Or, "What if he does change?" Or, "Yeah, I guess I could accept that." And the first and the last answer have closure. They are closure so that you can make a decision. Knowing that you won't be okay with it and knowing he won't change, you just accept it as is and then make your decision based on that information. It's the middle where a lot of people get stuck. A lot of people think, "Yeah, but that person could change. And if that person changes, then life would be great again." I always come to the place of, okay, do you see forward momentum in this area? Do you see things getting better and better and better? Or have they been the same for quite a while? Because I can almost guarantee if they've been the same for quite a while, then things aren't going to change. You have to make decisions based on what you see and hear today, what you are experiencing today. Because even if I'm wrong, even if the person does change tomorrow, they still need time to do it. They still need time to heal. And it wouldn't have happened had you not made the first step. Because sometimes the first step is saying, "Look, I can't take this anymore. Call me when you're ready." And then you get out of the situation in some way. "I can't take this anymore. Call me when you're ready." If you do go through some healing, then I'm willing to talk about it. But the way you are today is making me unhappy. I don't feel supported. I don't feel loved. I just don't feel like I'm part of your life. So I'm taking steps to help me. I'm taking steps so that I can heal and grow and get through life. And hey, if you want to take steps for you so that you can heal, so that you can get to a better place, wow, I'll be impressed. But don't do it for me. Do it for you. Because if you don't think you need healing and you think I'm the one who needs all the healing, perfect. I'll make you happy and I'll do and go get some healing. But I'm going to do it alone. I'm going to do it on my own because it's for me. And having you in my life, and either partner can say this, having you in my life influences me in a way that doesn't help me heal. Having you in my life influences me in a way that slows down or ceases or inhibits my healing. And because of that, I can't be with you while I heal. This is just one option. This isn't the option that I want you to take. It's just one option because you can come to a place inside yourself where you accept the relationship and accept who he is and be perfectly fine with it, knowing that he'll never change. The way he is today, if you can come to a place inside of yourself and where you say, "I know he'll never change. I know it, and I'm okay with it." Great. You might have a great relationship. Or you can come to a place inside yourself where you go, "I know he'll never change and I won't accept it." Then you can go, "Great. Now I have solid information and I can take steps that are right for me." But don't leave yourself in the middle. Don't leave yourself in that rut of not knowing and choosing to be in a place of, "Geez, I just don't know. He could change tomorrow. Or he could change in a year if I just stick it out." Because that rut is what keeps you there day after month after year. And it is possible he could change. It's also possible you could be waiting forever. So what do? You make decisions on what you know today. And you look at the past and you go, has he changed in the past 3 months? Has he made forward momentum? Has he made progress? Are things getting better and better and better? Because when you look at the past, you can almost always tell how it's going to look in the future. If there's no forward progress, there'll be no forward momentum from this point on. And coming to that belief inside your head gives you strength. It really does. It sucks. It feels awful. It's painful knowing that the person you are with is never going to change. Even if he does, doesn't matter, because even if you're wrong, then great. You'll get back together as two healed people that you went on your own personal healing journey by yourselves, and now you come together as healthier people. Because the relationship always manifests the dysfunctions in each of us. If there's something that we're bringing in, some sort of dysfunction, some sort of pain, some sort of fear from our childhood, from our past relationships, that will manifest in the relationship. So unless you heal within yourself, and unless he heals within himself, you only create the relationship that you can create with what you bring into it. Does that make sense? The person that you bring into that relationship will be the strength it has, will be the character it has, the quality it has, will be the dynamic it has. So if you have some healing to do and he has some healing to do, and believe me, when you stay with people that don't make you happy, you probably do have some healing to do. When you can do that for you, and he can do it for him, not for you, both of you have to do it for yourself so that you never attract dysfunctional people in your life, or at least the kind of, no other word for it, dysfunction that you don't want in your life. When you heal yourselves and walk the same path together and share experiences and support each other and want each other to be happy because you're happy or at least healthy in yourself, that's a strong relationship. Katie, I wish you the best through this. I know you didn't ask any questions, but I wanted to give you my insights anyway because it was an important topic, and I hope this helps you through the stuff you're going through now. Thanks for listening today. That's the show. We'll connect again soon. Until then. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Overwhelmed Brain. I want to thank Asha with GetOutOfTheMess.com. You know who Asha is. You hear her every week. Sometimes you don't, because sometimes she's not here in the studio. But I bring her on because I fully promote and endorse and trust what she's saying. And I want you to as well, because this is a fantastic service. If you've not used a service like this, or if you felt like you've needed help in the past, someone that could support you, and having the ability to just be able to pick up the phone and ask a legal question of someone without having to pay out the nose for it is phenomenal, and I highly recommend it. So talk with Asha, see if the service is right for you. If you're in the US or Canada, visit GetOutOfTheMess.com or call 678-355-8777. I want to thank you. If you've purchased one of my books or a worksheet or even used the Amazon link on the overwhelmedbrain.com, you are helping the show. You're helping this thing called The Overwhelmed Brain get out into the world and keep coming back week after week. So I appreciate you. Visit theoverwhelmedbrain.com and you can click on Deeper Learning for the books and worksheets, or you can click on the Amazon link to shop as you normally would. Thank you so much. I also want to thank, of course, Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com for some of the music transitions in The Overwhelmed Brain. All right, well, we talked about hard truths today. What are those hard truths that you have in your life that you don't want to face? That by accepting it, that means it's real. By accepting the truth that you don't want to accept, that means you'll have to do something about it or have to deal with it emotionally. And those hard truths can be hard. Those hard truths can lead to big change in your life. So I want you to think about any hard truths that you may have that you haven't been willing to face because you don't want to believe it. It's sort of a denial. I don't want to believe that this is true. I don't want to believe that this is true, so I won't face it. But facing it and bringing it to the forefront of everything that's going on in your life, and just diving into it and making it happen, making the hard truth real, and saying, this is the truth. I need to do something about it, or I need to accept it. Doing that, really, I've said this before, you get to a precipice of hurt, fear, and pain, and then you get over that hump and the healing begins. This is what I want for you. I want your healing to begin. So if you have any of these hard truths that you just don't want to face them, make it happen, do it, get out of that rut, because you don't need to be there anymore. I know this doesn't apply to everyone listening, but if it does apply, then bring that hard truth up and deal with it. Because the longer you don't deal with it, have you ever seen a dog chained up to a stake and he runs around to the length of his chain and he carves the same path over and over and over again, and pretty soon you know exactly the length that dog can reach from his chain? A path like that shows you his rut. He can't get beyond that because he's chained. And that's how I see people who don't accept the hard truths that they don't want to accept. They're chained and they stay in the rut they're in, and they stay unhappy and they stay uncomfortable, and they may even stay mad. They just stay in that same place, not moving forward, not getting beyond the length of that chain that they have locked themselves into, because they're not willing to face the consequences of what that hard truth may mean if they accept it. So if you're in that space of, I just don't want to believe it's real, move beyond that. Bring it up. Deal with the pain. Deal with the fear. Make it happen so that you can move forward in your life. Otherwise, are you willing to stay where you are? I mean, if you're facing a hard truth in your life, are you willing to stay where you are? And when you think about that place that you might stay in for the next year or 10 years or for the rest of your life, does that feel good or not? Face the hard truth, bring it up, heal from it, reach that precipice, and get beyond it, because on the other side is healing and growth and your own mental evolution to get beyond, to get better, so that you don't attract that kind of situation in your life again. And of course, you can always accept the situation you're in and not have a problem with it. Some people do that. I'm not a huge proponent of accepting something that is not beneficial to you, but some people do it, and sometimes it can work. It's up to you, and I just want the best for you. I want you to be in a place that you are making decisions that are right for you. So with that, open your mind and step into your power and be firm in your decisions and actions so that you can create the life you want. Always take steps to grow and evolve. You're powerful beyond measure. And above all, and this is something I absolutely know to be true about you, you are amazing. Just licked my pop filter on my microphone.